Welcome to Stories at Night, a quiet place to slow down, curl up under a blanket, and let your imagination wander. Some stories will make you smile, some might give you chills, and others will linger like a dream long after the night ends. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and let the story take you away. Thank you for joining the second story for Thanksgiving. This is the Thanksgiving Guest. Snow fell in wide, lazy flakes, the kind that made the whole world soft around the edges. Harper Lane leaned against the doorframe of her mountain lodge, watching the whiteness swallow the last hints of the winding road below. The storm had blown in faster than expected. It was only supposed to dust the ridge before Thanksgiving break, but now the forecast warned of overnight closures. Perfect, Harper murmured. Just perfect. The lodge behind her was warm, quiet, and painfully empty. Every year she told herself she didn't mind hosting a small Thanksgiving crowd. Locals, a couple of tourists, but this year had been thinner. A cancellation, another, then two more. She'd baked pies this morning, decorated the front room, and even set out the board games guests rarely touched. Now it was just her and the storm. She closed the door and rubbed her hands together for warmth, though the fire crackled strong in the stone fireplace. The quiet was nice, she told herself. Peaceful. She didn't need company. A loud, sharp knock rattled the door. Harper nearly jumped out of her skin. She stared at the wood, heart thudding. Nobody should be out on this road for miles. Nobody should be able to drive in the snow by now. Another knock, firmer, urgent. Harper approached carefully, hand hovering near the emergency flashlight she kept on the entry table. She cracked the door an inch. A man stood on the porch, snow plastered to his jacket and hair. His breath puffed in clouds. His eyes, warm brown under the dark lashes, found hers immediately, and she saw a mixture of embarrassment and hope. "Hi," he said breathlessly. "Please tell me you've got a room." Harper blinked. "In this storm? How did you even get up the road?" He glanced back towards the buried driveway. "Barely." He opened the door fully. "Come in, quickly." He stepped inside, shivering hard. Harper shut the door behind him and helped brush snow from his shoulders. "You're freezing," she said. "Sit by the fire. I'll grab a towel." "Thank you," he said, voice deep and warm even through his chattering teeth. "I'm Cal, by the way. Cal Bennett." "Harper Lane," she said. "Owner, cook, snow shoveler, occasional repair woman." He smiled, just a small one, but it lit something low in her chest. "You run this whole place alone?" "Well," she said, tossing him a towel, "when the universe cancels half your guests, you do what you have to." Cal rubbed the towel over his hair, then held his hands towards the fire. His clothes clung to him, damp from the snow. Harper reluctantly tore her eyes away from the firelight shadowed across his face and moved toward the front desk. "You said you need a room?" "If that's okay," he said. "My rental spun out just down the road, and with the snow, well, I'm not going anywhere tonight." "Or tomorrow," Harper replied. "The road crews won't clear until after Thanksgiving. You might be stuck." He gave a low, rueful laugh. "Well, I guess I'm your holiday guest, then." Harper typed his information into the computer, but the machine froze again. Something had been doing for days. She slapped the side of the tower gently. "Sorry," she muttered. "She hates the cold." Cal leaned on the counter, close enough for her to smell pine and cold air and something distinctly masculine. "Most people hate the cold," she swallowed. "I grew up here. It's in my blood." He raised a brow. "You live alone on a mountain." Her cheeks warmed. "I run a business on a mountain." Still impressive, he said softly. Harper cleared her throat before she forgot how to speak. Your room's ready. Top floor, end of the hall, room 4. He grabbed the key she offered, their fingers brushing for the briefest moment. Electricity shot through her hand, unexpected and sharp. Cal paused, brows lifting slightly. He felt it too. Then he smiled again, this time wider. Lead the way? Harper took a breath. Sure. They climbed the wooden staircase, Harper praying the old beams didn't decide to creak louder than usual. Cal followed close behind, boots heavy on the steps. Sorry about the snow, Harper said as they walked down the hall. It wasn't supposed to hit this hard. Storms don't seem to care about schedules, Cal said with a small laugh. I shouldn't have tried to beat it. Thanksgiving with my sister was the plan. She'll understand. That's where we're headed? Yeah, he rubbed the back of his neck. Haven't seen her in a while. Felt like the right year to make the trip. Harper nodded. Family's important. Got any of your own around here? She hesitated. Not anymore. He didn't pry. Harper appreciated that more than he knew. She reached room 4 and opened the door. The room was warm from the heating vents, the bed freshly made with flannel blankets. Hal stepped inside and let out a breath. Wow, this is cozy. Glad you like it, Harper said. If you need anything, I'm just downstairs. He turned to face her. Really face her. Thank you, Harper. Really. I wasn't expecting kindness in the middle of a blizzard. Her heart tugged. It's Thanksgiving. Kindness is the point. He smiled, slow and grateful. Still, thank you. She left before her heartbeat betrayed her, closing the door gently behind her. Harper tried to return to her evening routine, setting bread dough to rise, wiping counters, adding logs to the fireplace, but she couldn't stop replaying the moment Cal walked through the door. The way he looked at her, the way she felt when his fingers brushed hers. She hadn't expected company during the holiday. She certainly hadn't expected that. She was halfway through slicing vegetables when she heard footsteps behind her. Smells amazing, Cal said. Harper stuttered, hand jerking. She set the knife down quickly. Dinner's simple vegetable stew with fresh bread. He leaned against the counter, still in his damp undershirt now that he'd shed his jacket. The sleeves hugged his arms in a way that she tried not to notice. Sounds perfect. She moved back to the pot. You're welcome to join me. It'd be a waste to cook for myself. She smiled softly. I'd like that. He helped her carry bowls and bread to the long wooden table. The dining room was quiet, except for the ticking of the lodge's antique clock and the muffled wind outside. They sat across from each other. So, Harper said, sipping her stew, what do you do when you're not driving up the mountains during snowstorms? He gave an embarrassed laugh. I'm a wildlife photographer, part-time anyway. Mostly contract work. Her eyes widened. That's incredible. He shrugged modestly. Pays the bills. Lets me travel. Harper rested her chin on her hand. What brings you this way? He hesitated, something shifting behind his expression. Honestly, I needed a break. From people, from noise, and I wanted to see my sister during Thanksgiving. I just decided to take the long way around. Harper nodded slowly. I get that. Cal's gaze softened. You do? It wasn't a question. Harper looked down at her spoon. This lodge used to be full of laughter, families, couples, friends. It was loud in a good way. But after losing my dad last year, I just slowed down, took on less, stayed quiet. Cal's eyes filled with something gentle. I'm sorry. It's fine, she said quietly. Just different. He leaned forward slightly. Different isn't always bad. Her heart fluttered in her chest. They ate in companionable silence until Cal stood and carried his bowl to the sink. Want help with dishes? Harper blinked. You're a guest. You shouldn't. I insist, he said, rolling up his sleeves. Besides, I owe you. You saved me from freezing to death. The least I can do is grab a pot or two. She laughed. A genuine, heart-deep sound she hadn't made in a long time. They washed dishes together, slowly, shoulders bumping gently. Every small contact made Harper more aware of how long it had been since she had had company, real company. When the final pot was dry, Cal leaned against the counter again. "Storm's picking up," he said, nodding towards the window. Snow was falling harder now, wind gusting in sharp bursts. "You sure you're okay here alone on nights like this?" Harper folded her dish towel. "I'm used to it. Besides, I'm not alone tonight." Cal's gaze met her. The air shifted, soft, warm, charged. "Right," he said quietly. "You're not." A crack of thunder rolled over the ridge. The lights flickered. Once, twice, then everything went dark. Harper cursed under her breath. "Not again." Cal grabbed the flashlight off the counter immediately. "You lose power often?" "More than I like," Harper said, moving to check the breakers. "Mountain life." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the large and stark white glow. The wind howled louder. The temperature seemed to drop instantly. Harper shivered. "I need to get the backup generator running." "I'll help," Cal said. "Point me to where to go." "It's outside, behind the tool shed." Cal nodded. "Grab your coat." They bundled up and stepped into the storm. Snow swallowed the ground, wind whipping ice against their faces, breath fogged in harsh bursts. Harper led the way down the path. "Careful, it's slippery." Cal kept close behind her, one hand hovering near her back. They reached the shed, and Harper fumbled with the latch until it swung open. The generator sat inside, half buried under a tarp. Cal crouched beside it, fuel lines frozen. Harper knelt next to him, their shoulders brushing. "Can you fix it?" "I can try." He worked quickly, hands steady even in the cold. Harper held the flashlight for him, cheeks burning from both wind and proximity. Finally, Cal reattached the line and primed the full fuel pump. "Try it," he shouted over the wind. Harper pulled the starter cord. The generator sputtered, then roared to life. Lights flickered on inside the lodge. Harper exhaled, relief washing through her. "You're a lifesaver." Cal stirred, brushing off the snow off his pants. "Just returning the favor." They hurried back inside, shaking snow from their hair. Harper locked the door behind them. The lodge was dim now, running on generator power, but warm and welcoming again. Harper brushed snow from her eyelashes. "Thank you." "Of course," Cal said softly. Silence settled between them, not awkward, warm, intimate. Harper's heartbeat thrummed in her ears. She wasn't used to feeling this. Cal stepped closer, his expression gentle. "You okay?" She nodded. "Yeah, just haven't had real company in a while." He smiled faintly. "I'm glad I ended up here." Her breath caught. Thunder rolled outside again, muffled by snow. Inside, the fire crackled gently. Cal reached forward slowly, tucking a damp strand of hair behind Harper's ear. Her breath hitched. "Harper," he said softly, "you don't have to be alone tonight." She swallowed, heat rising in her cheeks. "I don't want to be." His eyes searched hers, warmth, patient, hope. Then he just stepped a little closer, not touching, just near enough to let her choose the space between them. Harper's pulse raced. She didn't step back. Harper didn't retreat, didn't break eye contact, didn't step away. Cal stood in front of her in the dim generator power light, the warm glow of the fireplace flickering over his face. Snow still clung to his hair, melting and dripping down his temples. He smelled like pine and cold winter air and something soft she hadn't realized she'd missed. Human closeness. "Okay," he whispered gently. "Come sit with me." Harper nodded, heart fluttering. Cal offered her his hand, not grabbing it, not assuming, just offering. Harper took it. His palm was warm against hers, calloused and steady, the kind of hand you could trust in a storm. He led her to the couch near the fireplace. They sat, bodies aligned toward each other, the fire humming with a low, comforting crackle. "You look warmer already," Harper said quietly. Cal huffed a small laugh. "Still stalling out, but I think it's working." Harper grabbed the blanket draped over the couch and tossed it over their legs. Cal looked at her with a mixture of surprise and gratitude, then tucked the corner of it gently around her side. "So," he said, settling in, "tell me something about you. Not lodge stuff. Not business." She raised a brow. "Like what?" "Like what you dream about when you're not entertaining stray mountain travelers?" She laughed. "I don't dream much anymore." "You used to?" Harper hesitated. "When my dad was alive, we talked about expanding the lodge, making a second cabin, maybe building a bakery down in the town. But after he passed," she looked at her hands, "everything stopped." Cal's expression softened. "You stopped dreaming because it hurt too much to picture the world without him in it." Harper blinked. "That's actually exactly it." "Then maybe," Cal said gently, "you just need someone to remind you it's okay to start dreaming again." Her breath caught. He didn't say it flirtatiously. He said it like he meant it. Harper swallowed hard. "Your turn. What do you dream about?" He leaned back, thinking, the fire reflecting in his eyes. "Peace, I think. I've traveled so much for work that I'm exhausted. I want something steady, someone I can come home to." Harper's pulse fluttered dangerously. "Do you have someone like that now?" Cal's gaze held her own. "No." The space between them tightened, warmed, glowed. Thunder rumbled outside, making the windows tremble. The storm was worsening. Snow smacked the glass in gusts, wind howling against the eaves. Harper pulled the blanket tighter. "We're definitely not going anywhere tonight." Cal glanced at the window. "Could be days." She laughed under her breath. "Guess you're officially my Thanksgiving guest." Cal smiled slowly. "Best holiday I've spent in years already." Her cheeks heated. "You're just saying that." "No," Cal said softly. "I'm not." Another gust rattled the building. Harper flinched as the lights flickered, but the generator held. The fire spat a shower of embers on the logs. Cal gently rested his hand on hers. "You okay?" Harper nodded. "Just storms." He waited. She sighed. "I'm used to being alone in them. That's all." Cal squeezed her hand. "Not tonight." Harper didn't look away. "No, not tonight." Their hands remained tangled together, warm beneath the blanket. For a long moment neither spoke. The air felt thick with possibility, with something growing between them, and neither wanted to break it. Cal finally cleared his throat softly. "You ever feel like the universe shoves you somewhere on purpose?" Harper smiled slightly. "You think the stone shoved you here?" He chuckled. "Maybe it didn't want me freezing in the ditch." "Or," Harper teased, "maybe it wanted you to help me fix my generator?" Cal laughed, really laughed, and the sound made something inside Harper loosen. Then its expression softened again. "Or maybe it wanted me to meet you." Heat bloomed under Harper's skin. "Cal?" He shook his head gently. "No pressure. I'm just saying, I'm glad I'm here." Harper inhaled shakily. "Me too." The lights dimmed again as the wind howled. Cal pulled the blanket up higher around both of them, instinctively, closer now, their shoulders touching. Harper was painfully aware of every place their bodies met. The warmth, the steady rise and fall of his breath, the soft brush of his knees against hers. Cold? He asked quietly. A little. He shifted, draping an arm loosely along the back of the couch behind her, letting her lean into it if she chose. She hesitated, just long enough to feel her heart beat, then leaned in. Cal's arm wrapped around her naturally, fitting like it belonged there. Harper felt her entire world tilt. She rested her head against his shoulder, and Cal let it out a soft exhale, brushing his cheek gently against her hair. "Is this okay?" he murmured. "Yeah," she whispered. "Very." The fire crackled louder, filling the silence between them with warmth. Cal's hand gently rubbed her upper arm, up and down in slow strokes meant to warm her and calm her. It worked. Minutes passed in comfortable silence before Harper finally asked, "So what brought you up the mountains, really?" Cal considered this. "Honestly, I was lost." She smiled lightly. "Literally?" "Figuratively," he said. "Everything felt noisy, too fast, like the world was spinning and I couldn't catch up. A storm makes you slow down, makes everything quiet." Harper nodded. "It does. Then I found this place," he said softly. "Found you." Her breath caught again. The storm outside intensified, rattling the windows hard enough to make Harper jump. Cal pulled her closer, instinctively protective. "Sure you're good during storms?" he asked. Harper sighed. "I will be." He tilted his head, looking down at her. "Because you're not alone?" She nodded. Cal's thumb brushed her arm. "Good." Harper swallowed. "You're very easy to talk to." "Who are you?" "I don't usually let people in this fast." He smiled faintly. "I'm honored." Another long moment passed between Cal whispered, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." He shifted just enough to see her face better. The firelight painted warm gold across his features. "If this storm lasts until Thanksgiving, will you have dinner with me?" Harper blinked. "Here? At the lodge?" "No," he said softly. "With me. As two people sharing a meal. Not just a guest and a host." Her heart squeezed. "I'd like that," she whispered. Cal smiled, a slow, relieved, genuine smile that melted through her like heat. "Good," he said, voice low. Then the building groaned loudly as a gust hit the roof. The generator hiccuped. Harper tensed again. Cal tightened his arm around her. "We should check the basement. Make sure the fuel line's steady." Harper nodded. "You're right. If the generator fails, we're freezing." They stood. Cal grabbed a flashlight from the counter, and Harper wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Together, they moved through the dim hall toward the basement steps. The lodge creaked with the storm. The wind moaned through the eaves. Snow battered the roof like a relentless drum. Harper glanced at Cal. "Stay close. Steps are uneven." He followed her closely and carefully down the stairs. Halfway down, the lights flickered. Cal paused. "Harper, wait." She froze. The basement was dark except for the thin beam of the flashlight. They reached the bottom. Cal swept the light across the room. Pipes, boxes, low rafters. Nothing looked wrong until they reached the generator panel. Harper gasped. A slow, steady leak dripped from a cracked pipe overhead, pulling dangerously close to the generator's wiring. "Oh no," Harper whispered. "If that thing hits the wrong connection." "Lose heat," Cal finished grimly. "And maybe the entire system burns out." Cal set the flashlight on a shelf, grabbed a wrench from the tool rack, and climbed onto a crate. Hold the light steady. Harper aimed the beam upward. Cal's voice was calm, but focused. Pipe's old as hell. I can try tightening the coupling, but... A crack of thunder shook the building. The pipe split wider. Water sprayed in a sudden burst right towards the generator. Cal! He lunged down, grabbed the tarp Humper had used earlier for the generator outside, and flung it over the wiring just in time. But in the scramble, his foot slipped. Cal! He fell backward, hitting the cement hard. Harper dropped to her knees beside him. Cal! Cal! Are you okay? He groaned, eyes squeezed shut. Yeah, yeah, just winded. She touched his cheek, concern flooding her. You scared me half to death. Cal opened his eyes, slowly, deliberately, and met her gaze from inches away. I'm okay, he whispered. Harper exhaled shakily. Don't do that again. I'll try not to, he murmured. Their bodies were close, too close. Harper felt the warmth of him even in the cold basement air. The thunder rumbled again, but neither of them moved. Cal's hand reached up slowly, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. Harper, he whispered. Her heart lodged in her throat. She began. The generator sputtered loudly. They both jumped as they coughed, chugged, then steadied again. Cal exhaled. We need to shut off the water and fix that pipe before it floods this place. Nodded, breath shaky still. Yeah, let's let's do that. They worked side by side for 30 minutes, patching the pipe, redirecting the leak, drying the floor. When it was finally safe, Cal turned off the wrench, sat back against the crate, and dragged a hand through his hair. That, he said, breathless, was too close. Harper sat beside him, legs brushing his. You protected us, she said. He looked at her, really looked at her. Harper, I'd protect you from anything. Silence fell, warm, charged. Harper swallowed. Come upstairs. It's warmer. Cal stood and offered her his hand again. She took it. Climbing the steps, their fingers stayed intertwined. At the top, Harper suddenly felt an ache. Deep, soft, hopeful. She didn't want him letting go, and he didn't. When they reached the main room, Cal stopped, turning toward her. His voice was barely above a whisper. Harper, I want to kiss you. Her breath shivered. Then do. Cal froze for breath, just a breath, of his making sure he heard her right. Snow hissed softly against the windows. The fire popped in the hearth. The entire lodge felt like it was waiting. Then he stepped closer, slowly, gently, deliberately. His hand cupped Harper's jaw, thumb brushing her cheekbone in a way that made her breath tremble. His touch was warm, grounding, careful, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he pushed too hard. Okay, he whispered, and he kissed her. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't hungry. It was warm, soft, the kind of first kiss that wrapped itself around a moment and made it unforgettable. Harper melted into him, sliding her hands to his shoulders as Cal deepened the kiss slightly, tasting her breath, matching her pace. A low exhale escaped him. Relief, maybe, or something like quiet wonder. When they pulled apart, foreheads touching, Harper's pulse was thundering. Cal breathed out a gentle laugh. I wanted to do that since the second you opened the door. She blushed, heart flipping. You were half frozen. How are you thinking about kissing anyone? He grinned. I wasn't dead, just cold. Harper laughed softly, leaning closer. Well, if you need warming up. He kissed her again. Still gentle, still tender, still the kind of kiss that built warmth slowly instead of rushing into the flames. When they separated again, Harper felt light, peaceful, and more alive than she had in months. Cal brushed her hair back. You okay? More than okay, Harper whispered. The storm boomed outside, shaking the windows. Harper flinched slightly before she could stop herself. Calltown found hers immediately. Let's get closer to the fire. She nodded, and they moved to the couch, settling under the blanket again. Harper curled against him, her head on his shoulder, Cal's arm snug around her. The heat of the fire washed over their legs. Cal tilted his head toward her. Harper, that kiss wasn't just. I know, she said quietly. It wasn't for me either. He exhaled, relieved, emotional. Good. For a while they just sat like that, the room glowing warm and soft around them, the world outside buried in storm and darkness. Harper closed her eyes, feeling Cal's steady breathing beneath her cheek, letting herself exist in that comfort. Eventually, she murmured, You really weren't scared out there, were you? In the shed? No. She lifted slightly to look at him. In the storm. Driving up here? Cal ran his thumb over the back of her hand. I wasn't scared until it was getting started. After that, I just kept thinking I needed to find somewhere safe, a place with lights on. Harper gave him a small smile. So you found me. I did. His voice softened, and I'm not sorry about it. Her chest tightened with warmth. Neither am I. Fire snapped sharply, sending sparks crackling upward. Harper snuggled deeper under the blanket, resting her head on Cal's shoulder again. Cal's fingers traced idle patterns along her arm. Tell me what Thanksgiving was like here, before things changed. Harper smiled faintly. Busy. Loud. My dad used to host a dinner for guests staying in the lodge, plus a few neighbors who didn't have anywhere else to go. I'd wake up at dawn to help him prep. It smelled like cinnamon and butter all day. Cal's eyes warmed. Sounds perfect. It was, Harper murmured, until he got sick. After that, holidays just felt like reminders. I get that, Cal said softly. My mom used to be big Thanksgivings too. After she passed, my sister and I tried to keep it going, but it just wasn't the same. Harper lifted her head slightly, meeting his eyes. You miss her? Every day, Cal admitted. But being here with you doesn't feel sad. It feels search for a word. Hopeful. Harper's heart twisted in the gentlest possible way. Yeah, she said. That's exactly the word. They fell into another easy silence, warmth and snow and fire weaving together like a soft cocoon. At some point, Harper realized her eyes were drooping. Cal noticed too. You should rest, he murmured, brushing a knuckle down her cheek. She blinked. I don't want this night to end. Cal smiled tenderly. It won't. I'm not going anywhere. Her heart practically glowed. Come upstairs? She asked softly. Not not for anything rushed. Just I sleep badly in storms, and she exhaled nervously. I'd feel better if I stayed with you. Cal finished gently. She nodded. His smile was slow and warm. Of course. He stood and held out a hand. Harper took it. They walked up the stairs together, hand in hand, the storm raging outside. Inside, warmth followed them. Harper paused at the threshold of her room. the fire from the main room casting a faint glow up the stairway. Well, she wasn't nervous, not exactly, but she felt a flutter in her stomach she hadn't felt in a long time. Cal waited patiently beside her. You sure? Yes, Harper said steadily. They stepped inside. Her room was simple, wood floors, thick blankets, soft lamplight from the generator. Harper set the blanket aside and slipped off her shoes. Cal did the same. She turned to him and found him watching her, not with hunger, not with impatience, but with a quiet, reverent kind of admiration. You're beautiful, he said, voice hushed. Harper flushed. You don't have to say things like that. I'm almost saying the truth. He lifted a hand and gently tugged a lock of hair behind her ear. Harper closed her eyes, briefly at the touch. I'm glad I'm here, Cal murmured. With you. Harper's throat tightened with emotion that she didn't expect. I'm glad too. Cal brushed his thumb over her knuckles. Come here. Harper stepped into him, resting her head against his chest. His arms wrapped around her, strong and warm, his cheek pressing against her hair. She felt safe, deeply, truly safe, in a way she hadn't felt in years. The wind howled outside. Cal held her closer. You're trembling, he murmured. Storms, she whispered. They always make me feel small, helpless. Cal leaned his chin lightly atop her head. You're not helpless, Harper. You fixed a generator, patched a pipe, run an entire lodge alone. You're stronger than you think. She swallowed. Maybe, but tonight, I don't want to feel strong. I just want. Her voice cracked softly. I want someone next to me. Cal tightened his arm. You have me. Harper breathed against his chest, slow, steady, soothed. Lightning flashed bright through the window. Harper flinched. Cal pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. I've got you, he whispered. Her stuttered exhale shivered through both of them. Slowly, gently, they lay down on the bed, still fully dressed except for the shoes, still wrapped in the quiet intensity of the moment. Cal pulled the thick blanket over them both, and Harper curled into his side. He held her easily, protectively, one hand brushing throughout her hair, and the other stroking slow circles on her back. Get some sleep, he murmured. Harper's fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt. Will you be here when I wake up? Cal pressed his lips to her temple. I'm not going anywhere. Harper finally let herself drift into sleep, warmed by the stone, the fire, and Cal's steady heartbeat. Harper woke suddenly in the quiet hours before dawn. The storm still raged, but she wasn't alone. Cal was there, warm arm under her head, the other around her waist, holding her gently but securely. His breath warmed the top of her head. His chest rose and fell against her cheek. He was still asleep. She stared at him for a long moment, taking in the softness of his expression, the steadiness of him, the warmth he brought into her life so unexpectedly. Then he stirred. Morning, he whispered, voice rough. Harper smiled softly. It's barely past sunrise. Cal cracked one eye open. Still counts. She laughed quietly. He brushed her hair back with a sleepy hand. You slept? I did, Harper said. Really well. He smiled. Good. They stayed like that, wrapped in blankets, listening to the storm fade in the distance. Then Harper whispered, Cal? Do you still want to have Thanksgiving dinner with me? Cal lifted his head slightly, met her eyes, and smiled in that soft way that made her breath catch. I want nothing more. The morning storm tapered into a soft snowfall by the time Harper and Cal made their way downstairs, still wrapped in the warmth of sharing a bed, still moving in that calm, easy harmony that came from two people who suddenly felt like they'd known each other for far longer than a single night. The lodge was quiet, cozy, and faintly lit by dim generator-powered bulbs. The fireplace still glowed with embers from the night before. Outside, the ridge lay blanketed in glittering white snow, the world fresh and untouched. Harper stretched, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Feels like the world reset while we slept. Cal smiled, stepping closer, fingertips brushing her lower back. Maybe it did. Heat shifted through her chest at the gentle touch. She headed into the kitchen. If we're really doing a Thanksgiving dinner, we should start early. Cal followed. What's the plan? Traditional? Fancy? Minimalist? Harper laughed. I was thinking simple. Turkey breast instead of a whole bird. Easier to cook for two. Mashed potatoes, stuffing, maybe the sweet rolls I used to make with my dad. Cal grabbed an apron from the hook and tied it around his waist, making Harper nearly drop the bag of potatoes. Point me where you need me. She crossed her arms faithfully. Are you any good at cooking? Cal gave a dead serious nod. I will not burn anything unless you tell me to. Harper burst out laughing. That's a start. They worked side by side. Cal peeling potatoes terribly with admirable dedication, while Harper prepped the turkey. He chopped herbs under her supervision, his sleeves rolled up, hands confident and strong. Careful, Harper said, guiding his hand when he held the knife at an odd angle. Her fingers lingered on his briefly, too briefly. Cal looked up at her, eyes warm. You're good at teaching, and you're good at pretending you don't need help. He grinned. Maybe I just like when you touch my hand. Her cheeks flushed. You're trouble. You invited trouble to Thanksgiving. Apparently I did. They shared a small smile, soft, private. As the turkey went into the oven, Harper slid a tray of rolls next to it. The comforting scent of yeast and butter began to drift through the lodge, filling every corner with warmth. Cal inhaled deeply. Heaven smells like anything, it's this. Harper snorted. It's just bread. No, it's magic. She shook her head, smiling, and moved to retrieve spices from the shelf above the counter. As she reached up on her toes, Cal stepped behind her, steadying her waist with one hand so she didn't slip. Her breath caught. Slow, careful, familiar. She lowered the spices and turned, unexpectedly close to him, bodies nearly touching, heat radiating off his chest. His voice dropped to a near whisper. Can I kiss you again? Harper swallowed. You don't have to ask. Cal leaned in and kissed her gently, lingering longer this time. Warm and soft and full of quiet promise. Harper's hands slid up his chest almost instinctively. When they separated, Cal rested his forehead against hers. This feels unreal, Harper whispered. Feels real to me. He cupped her cheek, brushing a thumb softly along her skin. You're making this feel like home, she exhaled shakily. Don't say things like that unless you mean them. I do. She didn't quite know how to breathe after that. Hours later, with the turkey roasting and the rolls rising, Harper put on a record from the old player near the bookshelf. A soft, warm jazz melody filled the room, exactly the kind of music her father used to play on Thanksgiving mornings. Cal wiped his hands on a towel and watched her sway lightly to the rhythm. You dance? He asked. Only when nobody's watching. He stepped closer. What about when one person's watching? Harper raised an eyebrow. Depends on the person. He offered his hand. She took it. Cal gently pulled her into a slow dance, guiding her as effortlessly around the open floor. Their bodies moved together easily, naturally, as if they'd been doing this for years. Harper rested her head against his chest, feeling the strong, steady beat of his heart. "You're a good dancer," she murmured. "So are you?" "You're just being nice." "I'm being honest," she smiled against his shirt. They danced through the entire song, and then it ended. Neither of them stepped away. Cal brushed her hair behind her ear. "Harper, can I ask you something?" She looks up at him. "Of course. Have you ever thought about leaving the mountain, just starting fresh somewhere else?" Harper inhaled slowly. "Once, after Dad died, I almost sold the lodge. I even met with a realtor, but walking through the empty building that day," she paused, "it felt wrong, like I'd be leaving him behind." Calm nodded slowly. "You loved him a lot." "Yeah," Harper said softly, "and I think a part of me didn't want to risk loving anyone else after that." Cal's expression shifted, something tender and aching. "I get that." "You do?" "Yeah," he said. "After my mom passed, I shut down for a long time. I pushed people away. Work was easier than caring about anyone." Harper rested her hand on his chest. "And now?" And covered hers. "Now, I'm starting to remember how good it feels to let someone in." Heat blossomed low in her chest. She whispered, "Me too." Cal kissed her forehead, a slow, affectionate press of lips that made every nerve in her body spark. By late afternoon, the Thanksgiving meal was ready. Harper and Cal set the table in the dining room, simple, warm, candlelit. A half blizzard still blew outside, but inside, everything was golden. Cal poured cider into 2 glasses. "Tell me this is the best Thanksgiving setup you've ever had." Harper nudged him with an elbow. "You're extremely proud of yourself, aren't you?" "Very." She laughed, shaking her head. "It does look perfect." He stepped back, admiring her in the soft glow. "It only looks perfect because you're here." Harper's breath caught. She sat at the table as Cal took the seat beside her instead of across from her. Their knees brushed, the shoulders touched. Closeness felt easy, natural. Cal raised his glass. "Two unexpected storms." Harper smiled. "Two unexpected guests." They clinked. Dinner was warm and comforting, full of laughter and soft conversation that flowed effortlessly. Cal kept stealing little glances at her, quick, admiring looks she tried not to notice. By dessert, apple pie warm from the oven, Harper felt something shift in her chest. Something solid, something real. Cal leaned back in his chair, watching her with a soft smile. "Best Thanksgiving I've had in maybe forever." Harper's heart melted a little. "You say that because you nearly froze last night," he said, shaking his head. "I say it because I mean it." Thunder rolled faintly in the distance, softer now, the storm finally losing strength. Harper leaned her head against Cal's shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "This feels good," Cal murmured. "It does," Harper agreed. "Feels right," he said quietly. She swallowed. "Cal?" He tilted his head down to look at her. "Yeah?" "I'm scared," she admitted softly. "Of what?" "Letting someone in again?" Cal's hand slid up her back, slow and reassuring. "I'm scared too." She looked up at him, surprised. He nodded. "I didn't expect any of this. I wasn't looking for it, but I'm not walking away from it." Harper's breath trembled. He gently cupped her cheek with a warm palm. "You don't have to fall fast. You don't have to promise anything. But I'm here, As long as you want me here, I'm staying. Harper's heart swelled, a soft ache spreading through her chest. Cal, she whispered, I want you here. His eyes softened, his voice dropped to a warm murmur. Then I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her again, slow, lingering, full of meaning. Harper wrapped her arms around him and kissed him back, feeling the warmth bloom through her whole body. The storm outside faded into quiet snowfall, but inside the lodge, everything felt alive, full, beginning. After dinner, Harper and Cal cleaned the dishes together, working in that same rhythm they'd fallen into all day. Easy, natural, like they've always been a team. Cal hummed lightly under his breath as he rinsed the last dish, the soft sound mixing with the faint crackle of the fireplace. Harper leaned against the counter, watching him, the warmth of the candles flickering along with the dining room cast a golden glow along his skin. His forearms flexed beneath his rolled sleeves, his hair slightly tousled, his eyes bright with contentment. He looked like someone who belonged here, someone who fit. Cal dried his hands and noticed her watching. A slow, simple smile slid across his face. What? Nothing, Harper said quickly. He stepped close enough she could feel his heat. That didn't look like nothing. Harper bit her bottom lip, somethingly shy. I'm just really glad you're here. Cal's expression softened. I'm really glad I'm here too. Snow drifted softly outside the window, settling in glistening piles along the dock rail. The lodge felt quiet, but in the warm, full way, not empty the way it had felt yesterday. Harper turned off the kitchen lights, letting the fire and candles guide her sight. Cal followed her into the sitting room, his hand brushing her lower back lightly. They settled on the couch, shoulder to shoulder. Harper curled her legs beneath her. Cal leaned back into the corner cushion, arm resting behind her, but this time he made no move to pull her in. He waited, the kind of patient that told her she was choosing this, not falling into it. Harper let out a slow breath, and moved into his arms on her own accord. His hand immediately curved around her waist, warm and secure. She rested her head on his shoulder, and let out a soft exhale she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Feels, Harper trailed off. Right? Cal finished quietly. Yeah, she whispered. He rubbed her arm lightly, keeping her close. The fire glowed warmly, snow pressed softly against the windows. They watched the flames share in long, comfortable silence. After a few minutes, Cal spoke in a low voice. Can I tell you something? Of course, he hesitated. Staying here, it's the first time in a long time I haven't felt like I'm running from something. Harper lifted her head slightly. Running from what? He swallowed. Pressure, expectations, people who want things from me but don't really see me. I've been alone a long time, Harper, even surrounded by people. Harper felt her heart squeeze. I know that feeling. He nodded slowly. But with you, I just feel like I can breathe. She touched his chest gently. I feel that too. Cal looked at her, holding her gaze for a long, intimate moment. Harper, I don't want this to end when the snow melts. Her breath hitched. Cal? You don't have to say anything right now, he said gently. Just don't think I'm looking at this as something temporary. Not if you're not. Honesty in his voice wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Harper's chest tightened with something soft and hopeful. I'm not as scared of you leaving, Harper whispered. I'm scared of wanting you to stay. Cal's hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing along her jaw. I'm here now, and I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Harper leaned into his touch. For a moment, the world felt still. Then Harper whispered, Cal, will you stay with me tonight? Like, really stay? His eyes softened with tenderness, not hunger, not impatience, just a deep affection. Harper? Yes, of course, followed. Not rushing anything, just be here. I'll be here as long as you want me, he murmured. Her heart fluttered hard. Come on, she whispered. She stood, and he followed her up the stairs, fingers intertwined. The lodge creaked softly under the wind, but it no longer felt like an empty sound. Not when Cal was behind her, steps quiet but sure. Harper opened the door to her room, warm from the low heater and the thick blankets piled on her bed. She let go of Cal's hand only to close the door behind them. Cal moved to her slowly, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. You sure? She nodded. I trust you. Something in his expression softened deeply. I won't break that. He kissed her, soft, warm, full of emotion. Harper responded, hands sliding up to his shoulders, their bodies pressed together gently, and every point of contact felt like sparks warming under her skin. Cal pulled back just enough to rest his forehead against hers. You tell me the pace, okay? Harper nodded. Okay. They climbed onto the bed, moving beneath the covers. Harper rested her head against his chest, fingers curling lightly in his shirt. Cal wrapped his arms around her, holding her closer, one hand stroking up her back in slow, soothing motions. She settled against him. Why does this feel so easy? Because it's real, he whispered. Thunder rolled faintly far in the distance, soft now, fading. Harper didn't flinch this time. Cal brushed her hair gently. You're safe. I know, she whispered. He kissed the top of her head. Get some sleep. But Harper didn't want to sleep yet. She wanted to memorize this warmth, this closeness, this feeling she thought she lost for good. Cal, she whispered. He murmured in response, fingers still stroking her back. What happens when the storm clears? He shifted slightly so he could see her face. What do you want to happen? I don't know, Harper admitted. But I know I don't want this to just disappear. Cal brushed his thumb along her cheek. Harper, look at me. She did. I don't plan on disappearing. I don't want this to be a snowstorm fling. I want. He paused, then said softly, sincerely, You. Her heart thudded hard. I want you to. Kissed her forehead, her cheek, then her lips, slow and tender. Then I'm staying here, he whispered, as long as you'll have me. Harper felt tears prick her eyes, but not of sadness, but of something blooming deep within her chest. Then stay, she whispered. He pulled her tightly into his arms, and Harper fell asleep curled against him, feeling safe, warm, and wanted for the first time in a long, long while. She woke hours later to the faint glow of morning light, dim and silver through the soft snowfall. Cal still held her, one arm around her waist, the other curled beneath her head. His breath brushed warm against her neck. Harper turned slowly to face him. Cal blinked awake, eyes soft, voice asleep to whisper, Morning. Harper smiled. Morning. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, thumb lingering at her jaw. Still glad I'm here? Harper leaned forward and kissed him softly. More than glad, Cal smiled, hands sliding up her back. Then let me make you breakfast. She raised a brow. To the kitchen downstairs? Yes, he said seriously, a very exclusive location. She laughed softly. Okay, breakfast it is. They dressed. Cal in a sweater, Harper lent him because his shirt was still damp. Harper in a soft flannel, hair trembling and loose around her shoulders. They stepped downstairs hand in hand. Harper paused halfway down the stairs, heart warming at the soft quiet of the lodge filled with the scent of lingering Thanksgiving spices. Feels like a new beginning, she murmured. Cal pulled her gently against him. It is. They shared another quiet, warm kiss in the stairwell before heading towards the kitchen. And for the first time in a long time, Harper thought what home is supposed to feel like. The kitchen was filled with the soft golden light of a snowy morning. Harper pulled out a skillet while Cal grabbed plates from the upper shelf, moving around each other like they'd done this 100 times. It surprised her how easily they fit into each other's spaces, avoiding elbows, sliding past with a quiet smile, handing each other utensils without being asked. It felt natural. It felt right. Cal brewed coffee while Harper cracked eggs into a bowl, whisking them lightly with cream. He leaned over her shoulder, chin almost brushing her hair. That smells really amazing. It's just eggs, Harper teased. Cal gave a low laugh. Nope, it's magic. Same as the bread. She rolled her eyes, smiling. You really like my cooking. I really like you, he said, quieter. Harper's whisk slowed. Cal blinked, realizing he said it out loud. I didn't take it back. Eyes softened. I mean it. Her cheeks warmed. She set down the whisk and turned slightly toward him. I like you too. His breath left him in a relieved exhale. Good. He brushed a hand along her cheek, a feather soft touch that lingered before he stepped back, letting her continue. Harper poured the eggs into a warm pan, the sizzle filling the kitchen. Cal leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Affection, admiration, something deeper. Once breakfast was finished, scrambled eggs, toast, sliced fruit, hot coffee, Harper plated everything and carried the dishes to the small table near the window. Snow still fell lightly outside, but the storm was long gone. The world looked fresh, pure, quiet. Cal joined her at the table, sliding her chair in gently before taking his own seat. They ate with warm silence stretching between them, interrupted only by small smiles, quiet laughter, and soft glances. Something had shifted between them, something steady and solid. When they first when they finished, Harper leaned back in her chair, coffee cup between both hands. I don't want this to end, she said softly. Cal looked at her for a long moment. It doesn't have to, Harper swallowed. When the road's open, you'll have to leave. Only if you want me to, Cal said. Her head jerked up. Cal leaned forward, hands flat on the table. Harper, I don't have a job tying me to any one place. Photography takes me everywhere and nowhere. I can work from here, stay here, be with you. Her throat tightened. Cal, I'm not asking you to make any huge promises, he added gently. Just don't assume I have to disappear when the soul melts. Harper stared at him, heart thudding. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately. Part of her feared she'd crush something fragile if she held it too tightly. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Cal exhaled softly. Of what? of letting this happen, of believing it's real, of waking up one morning and finding out this was just a snowy week that didn't mean anything. He stood slowly, walked to her, and crouched beside her chair so they were eye level. Harper, he murmured, taking her hands. This isn't a week. It's not a fluke. It's the first time in a long time I felt like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Tears burned behind Harper's eyes. And if you have me, Cal continued softly, I'd like to stay for a while, for longer than a while, long enough to know what this is and where it goes. Harper's breath hitched. You do that? Cal gave a tiny warm smile. I'm already doing it. A tear finally broke loose, sliding down her cheek. Cal brushed it away with his thumb. You don't have to decide today or tomorrow. Let me be here. Let me stay close to you. Let me. His voice broke slightly. Let me be in your life. Harper leaned forward and kissed him. A soft kiss, a grateful kiss, a yes kiss. Cal sighed into it, relief and affection pouring into the way he cupped her face gently. When they parted, Harper whispered, I want you here. His smile widened, softness melting into joy. Then I'm here. He stood and pulled her into a slow, warm embrace. Harper buried her face in his sweater, holding him tightly. I'm scared, she whispered again. So am I, he murmured in her hair. But that just means it matters. They spent most of the morning cleaning the lodge together, sweeping, stacking wood, refolding blankets. Harper insisted Cal rest since he'd fallen in the basement, but Lee smirked and grabbed a broom. Save me from frostbite, he said. Least I can do is sweep. Around midday, they suited up in coats, gloves, and boots to shovel the snow off the deck. Harper teased Cal about his terrible shoving technique. It's an artistic expression, he declared, flinging snow in an arc so wide it nearly hit the window. Harper laughed. That's not art, that's chaos. Chaos, he agreed, is also an art. She shook her head and tossed a handful of snow at him. It hit him squarely in the chest. His jaw dropped. Oh, it's like that, huh? Before she could run, he scooped up 2 armfuls of snow. Because apparently, Sybil was dead, and dumped it near her feet, sending snow spraying up her legs. Harper shrieked and laughed as she stumbled back. A painfully chaos turned into a full-blown snow flurry chase around the lodge, both of them laughing breathlessly, cheeks red from the cold and joy. Eventually, Cal cornered her by the side of the deck, breath fogging in the air. You started it, he said, grinning. You escalated it. I accept no responsibility. She laughed, her heart light and full. They stood there, breathless, snow flakes clinging to their hair and lashes. Cal stepped closer, brushing snow from her cheek. Perfect day, he murmured. Yeah, Harper whispered. It really is. He leaned in and kissed her, slow and warm despite the bitter cold, melting everything between them till all she could feel was the softness of his lips and the warmth of his hands cupping her jaw. When they pulled apart, Harper rested her forehead against his chest. I don't remember the last time I was this happy. Cal's arms slid around her. Me either. Snow swirled gently around them, the world soft and quiet. It didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like a continuation of something that had waited years to start. That evening, Harper cooked a light dinner, soup and leftover rolls. Cal insisted on washing dishes again, They shared quiet smiles across the table, shoulders brushing when they passed one another. Later, they curled up together on the couch again, wrapped in the same blanket as the night before. The fire crackled softly, and the storm had quieted into peaceful snowdrift murmurs. Cal brushed his thumb across her knuckles. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes," Harper murmured, leaning into him. "What if—" he hesitated. "What if we made this more than just a snowstorm?" Her heartbeat fluttered. "What do you mean?" Cal turned slightly so he could see her better, his expression warm and steady. "What if I didn't leave when the roads opened? What if I stayed for the rest of the winter, long enough to see where the leads, long enough to really try?" Harper swallowed. "Really try?" He nodded. "I want to know what it feels like to be with you, without a clock ticking down, without knowing I'm leaving in a week. I want—" Her voice softened. "I want to build something real." Harper felt her heart open, slowly and safely. "I want that too," she whispered. His expression lit up, warm and relieved. She slid a hand up to cup his cheek. "Then stay. Stay for the season." Cal leaned in and kissed her, deeply, gratefully, warmly. "I'm staying," he whispered against her lips, "for as long as you'll have me." Harper kissed him back, smiling into it. "Good," she murmured, "because it's been a long time since this place felt like home." Cal pulled her fully into his arms, holding her close, breathing her in. "It feels like home to me," he whispered. Harper's eyes stung with emotion. She held on tighter, letting herself believe, truly believe, that something beautiful was beginning. 1 week later, the storm had melted into clear skies and crisp winter mornings. The mountain glistened with sunlight on fresh snow. In the lodge's kitchen, Cal stood behind Harper as she kneaded dough, arms wrapped loosely around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. "You're really staying," she teased softly. He kissed her cheek. "Told you. Nowhere else I'd rather be." Harper smiled, leaning back against him. Outside, the world was brighter, clearer, safer. Inside, she was finally beginning to feel the same way. As they prepared breakfast together, warmth, laughter, soft love filling the lodge, Harper knew this was just the beginning. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what came next, because she wouldn't face it alone. She had Cal, her Thanksgiving guest, her unexpected miracle, and maybe, just maybe, she taught her something lasting. Thank you for spending part of your evening with Stories at Night. I hope tonight's tale took you somewhere new. Maybe it made you smile, stirred a memory, or sent a pleasant chill down your spine. These stories remind us that even when the world grows quiet, imagination stays wide awake, whispering, laughing, and dreaming right alongside us. New stories arrive here 2 times a week, each one a little different, each one its own escape. So when you're ready to unwind again, come back, get cozy, and let the next story take you away. Until then, rest well, dream deeply, and keep listening to Stories at Night.